liberty, and justice for all.
Okay. Well, the approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
So moved.
As sent out, motion made and seconded to approve the January minutes. All those in favor say aye. February, I'm sorry, excuse me. February minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I move we approve the planning board minutes from February, no, January.
Motion made, seconded to approve the planning board minutes from February, right? Not January.
They didn't have February minutes.
February.
Okay, that's right.
I just gave you March
Okay.
and I put unapproved on top.
So we're approving January's minutes. We can't approve March yet.
We already did.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's February.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. What do you got on the television, Bob? I can hear it loud and clear.
Okay, weather station.
That's what I thought. It sounded like Weather Channel. But anyway, we'll the approval of the reports for the month, I guess.
Paid to the supervisor for general fund was $2,750.50. Paid to the New York State Animal Population Control Program was $53, and paid to the New York State Health Department. The marriage license was $22.50 for total disbursements of $2,776.
1,276.
2,776.
How come mine said?
2776.
Well, I'm looking at the total 2,200, but you must didn't total them up on this page, right? Okay, I was reading the 2,200.
Those are.
If I flip it over, I'll read 2776. How's that? Okay. Go ahead, Russell. Oh, no, I'll give you the. I'm all screwed up. What's going on? You got two supervisors' reports there. One of them is the month of January that you didn't have last month, and the other one is the one for tonight, and ended February. And the one I believe I want is March 9th, which will be the general fund checking account balance is $647,934.06, and the savings account is $382,661.45. The highway fund checking balance is $1,586,328.75, and $521,752.34 in the savings account. So, you can compare them to the other two balances in the checking in the general and the highway fund from the other reports that you have, unless you want it read out loud. If you don't, Russell can tell us what he's been up to. But
Well, hopefully winter's over.
The geese are flying like crazy today.
Huh?
The geese are really flying like crazy today.
yeah, they were.
Yep. They're long.
We're getting ready for spring, getting things serviced for spring, and we did. We're gonna start cutting trees here maybe tomorrow or the next day. But, we did file with Bridge New York. We started the process. We're in the first step. So once we hear back from the engineers by the 19th, then you can pick an engineer, and the engineer has to present it, and that, I think that's gonna cost a little money. I think they said anywhere from, when I talked to Hunt, they said something like $1,500 to $2,500 to them to present it, to write the plan
Do
out.
the right
for
to plan
Bridge
and
New
do
York.
that process, yeah.
Did
Okay.
Did they give an opinion on what they thought our chances of getting money through it?
They said it's pretty good because we've had a lot of issues with that bridge. And he says, you know, so it's got a lot of history.
Yeah, that bridge goes way back. But we're talking about the bridge up on
Diamond Valley.
Diamond Valley
A
where
little concrete bridge.
Ross Hill and Diamond Valley come together.
Yeah, I had him look at it one
Yeah.
year last year.
Uh,
Good.
That's been, you know, I mean, I remember dealing with that back when Morris and Fred were.
Yeah. It's always been an issue.
Yeah. Okay, what about the truck? Did you get that back together and running?
Yep, 93.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we
I
did. We got it back together. But so this is a 2015 Volvo. They bought off the lot, off the Berks. And the box on that thing is junk. So the town of North Raleigh has this, what they call a sister truck to that. Did the same thing, bought the truck off the lot, and they were down because they got all sorts of issues with the chain in it and the box and the side dump. Their box, they come down and looked at ours, and they had their truck. Their box is really rough shape. They won't warranty or anything, and so I went and looked at Andy's. You know, we picked Andy's up and started looking at it. Oh my gosh, it's cracked here, cracked here. The frame on the box, it's cracked all over the place. And I said, well, before it gets any worse, we're gonna, you know, so Ray's been working on it all week. He's done now. Went and braced all the supports up in there. He could tell you more how they build it pretty cheap. Hopefully we got it braced up now.
What brand of box is that?
Tenco, I think it is, or
Uh-huh.
Tarco. It's either a Tenco or a Tarco.
Do you remember, Bob, what that box is on the truck that Andy's driving? Tenneco? That's what he thinks, yeah.
And it's this.
Did you hear what he said? It's all broken, cracked, and Ray's been working on it all week on it. Okay, well, thank you for cleaning up down at the park and stuff. I went down yesterday to look around to see, because I was gonna go down with my little tractor and plow the road and clean it out so it would melt off. Because I figured people were gonna want to get out of their house.
The ice is hard. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I see that whoever, Russell?
Today.
Well, even yesterday, he dropped the blade and cleaned it off.
Yeah,
the blacktop.
yeah.
So it would melt down. I was gonna have you go down and put a little salt on it, maybe.
I did this morning.
Did you? And then
Twice.
I thought, well,
Once
maybe.
at 7:30 and then once again at like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
And then I thought, well,
I mean,
maybe.
that ice
Should have worked good today and.
You would
and
think.
Tomorrow, it
Yeah.
won't be all gone.
Yeah, it's thick.
He went over and picked up some picnic tables today too.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was gonna do that. I was
I
gonna
had
put the forks on my
it.
tractor. Go down,
Because if
but-
the snow melts off,
Yeah,
you ain't gonna get on there at all. So
no, I know.
I
I
have
have
to
to
do
dry
that
up a little bit. Did he put them on the concrete pad under
Yeah.
the pavilion? 'Cause that's really
Yeah,
all.
I don't know
want.
which one, but yeah, he did.
Well, the one that was empty down there where they're working with the
I
trees.
think he did. Yeah, I didn't ask him. I said,
And then I had Russell grab that Widowmaker and break that down too, so it was at least on the ground.
Yeah, he said he did. Yeah.
Okay. And then me, like an idiot, went around with a pickup, and I thought, well, I guess I'll drive down the railroad track and come out down there by the ball field on this end. Good thing I had a shovel with me. That's all I can say. You ever try shoveling with one hand?
What'd you do? You stuck?
Yep. But I got out. I thought I was gonna have to go back and get Russell the excavator, but we made it. So, okay.
Did you buy some gravel? Cause you think that pit was flooded
Back earlier,
earlier?
yeah.
When the pit flooded.
Yeah. Two of those, yeah.
Okay, you done?
Well, how's our salt holding out?
Good. You know, because Doug called me, it must be his brother delivers salt and said,
Yes.
"You shut off."
Yes.
So I ordered 200 more and I don't think we touched it, so. I know we didn't touch it.
Said Doug called you, Doug.
Yeah, whatever his last name.
Oh, that's right. His brother does own a truck.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, but we used ordered 600 ton in 20 months.
Okay. Motion to accept the reports is given.
So, sorry,
Motion made and seconded to accept the reports is given. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Privilege of the floor. Michael wants to talk to the board about the Glen Mary Drive issue. You're up, Mike. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I'd like to start with saying thank you all for the service that you give to town Tioga. It's appreciated, and thanks for seeing me today. So I'm gonna give you guys this little handout I have. It's got a real long description of things. But really, for right now, the pictures are what matters. And I'm just gonna kind of run down the history of my involvement with these properties and where we are today and where we'd like to go. I'll start out by saying my objective here today is to ask you guys for formal support for soil and water moving forward with this, and formal support. And I'm not sure how this all works, if it's a resolution or a formal letter from the town in support of us. And I'll describe further what support I'm asking for. Is essentially put in a grant application to purchase 744 Glen Mary Drive through the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And if we get that grant, we would like the town to accept ownership of the property afterwards. Essentially, this would be just like a flood buyout, and it would be at no cost to the town the way that we have it set up right now, other than taking the property just like during a flood buyout. So let me back up and kind of talk about where I've been with these properties and where we're at now. It was 2010 was my first involvement, where I talked with Mike Head, who owned 744 Glen Mary, and he called me that there was erosion issues, and at that time it was a pretty severe erosion issue. We gave some recommendations on what could be done. Now, obviously, it was very expensive. This is, you can see in the photos, a 50-foot high by 300-plus foot long eroding bank on Owego Creek, where Owego and Padpunk meet. So it's not a small undertaking for a private landowner to deal with. So Mr. Head then sold the property to Mr. Wells, who, for whatever reasons, when he bought the property, didn't think that it was as big of a deal when he bought it as then after he bought it, realizing it is a big deal. So I've been working with Mr. Wells since then, and Mr. Hyatt, who owned 752, I can't remember his first name. Is it Phil? Phil?
David.
Well, Phil owned it originally, and then.
Well, yeah, no, David, Phil never owned it.
Oh,
It was
David.
David.
Right, yeah, so I talked with him and we were working together, and that's where we had applied. I can't remember what year, but we've had this grant for a few years through the Water Quality Improvement Project funding through New York State to do some work on the toe of the bank. So the amount of funding that we have, since we were applying for the grant and getting into the process of being awarded, more severe damage occurred on the bank. So the money that we have now is not nearly enough to do what we need to do to stop the erosion and protect the houses. So as of now, those houses are perched atop the bank and in danger of, worst case scenario, potential loss of life. If someone's sleeping in the house and there's a major flood event, and one of those houses becomes undermined by the stream and a landslide occurs, that worst case scenario could cause someone to be very injured or die. So we've been involved, really trying to do something. We have some funding to do something, but we don't believe that the amount of money that we have would really do anything as far as protecting the top of the bank. So we could protect the toe at this point with the money we have, which as of now, Soil and Water is on the hook for the 25% cost share of that. So we're still trying to work that out as well. But that would not stop potential landslides from the top of the bank. So our goal in 2018, we had a declared disaster, as you guys know. So the state guys that we were working with to go through the FEMA Public Assistance Program suggested maybe a buyout through that program. Well, apparently all of us misunderstood that program. That is not something that it pays for. So it took us 2 years to find that out from FEMA. So that brought us to last year. And last year, the hazard mitigation grant program was open. And so we are eligible. Soil and Water did become an eligible applicant, although we can't own the property afterwards. So we did put in an application to purchase 744 Glenmary Drive, and that could take up to a year to find out whether we're approved for that or not. And in the meantime, we believe that we need formal support from the town, that once it gets to FEMA, they're gonna say who's gonna own this afterwards. And, that's something that I would like town of Tioga to accept that parcel just like you would in Tioga Center here where you bought out flooded houses. The parcel is less than an acre. Soil and Water intends to do the work once that house is gone. Now we can gain access much more cost efficiently down there, lay the bank back, get some work done, stabilize that whole area, and then we plan to plant a buffer of woody vegetation, shrubs, and trees. So Soil and Water would be linked together with the maintenance of that property as well because of that. So those are some of the things, and I guess that's all I have to say for now. And I'm not sure what your guys' process, or if it would happen today or another meeting, or if you want more information, if you have any questions, but I'll try to answer them.
You just handle one property?
Yeah, so the other property was sold in 2020 to Mr. Charles Romig. And right before I applied for the hazard mitigation grant, I asked him if he was interested in a potential buyout. And at that time, he declined because he had just bought the property. So the intention is that if we could buy at least one of those two, then we could cut our way down in there and protect the other.
So one of the things that we talked about was public fishing access.
That is also in the works.
FEMA agreed to that,
I haven't talked with FEMA, but that's conducive to their usages of a buyout property. But essentially, it would be a park space or a public space, natural space.
Because that would be, to me, that would be the only benefit to the town per se, is if it were a public fishing access. We talked about all this, Jerry and I, and you sat for an hour and a half in the room here one day, talked about it last fall. And I believe that would be a worthy cause.
Right, so I've spoken with Scott Crindle at DEC, who's in charge of the public fishing accesses, and he is interested. They have to look into like the deed research and all that sort of stuff to see if it's a simple thing for them to take ownership of the property. So if they are interested, then, and they're able to do it, DEC would take ownership of the property.
Instead of the town?
Instead of the town, but basically I'm asking the town to say they would take ownership in the case of if it doesn't work out with DEC. Essentially, there's 100 moving parts going on here at one time, and I'm trying to get all of the bases covered, so if any one of those parts drops out, we can still help these people.
But with all that being said, it brings more questions to my mind. If we can't get in on the Romick property or the Hyatt property to do anything, how will...
He's supportive of us doing work.
As long as it doesn't cost him anything, you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah, so that is money gotta come from somewhere there.
Right.
So, and if you don't do anything there, how do you stop water from getting in behind what you wanna do?
So we will do work on his property also. Essentially, it's like, if one or the other houses was gone, that would be all we needed, right? So we were eyeing that property because it was in the state of for sale and not knowing what was gonna go on with it. But then once it was sold, Mr. Wells is a voluntary participant of the program if we do get the grant to buy him out. So that's why we've chosen that property. And again, then we can cut down and do the work on the rest of the bank. It gives us access for contractors, trucks, rock deliveries, that sort of thing. Then we can build up that bank to effectively protect the remaining house there.
Well, have you ever gone to the county yet and talked to the county legislature about this situation?
Yeah.
It is their road that's in jeopardy.
Well, it's residents of town of Tioga that are in jeopardy before it's a county road that's in jeopardy.
Say that again?
There's 2 residents of the town of Tioga that are in jeopardy before the county road.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying.
As far as the county having a buy-in, I would like to ask the county.
No, I'm not talking about the county buying it because I don't see that happening forever. Except they just got $9 million today. Might be a good, according to rumor.
They'll spare a couple of
But my point is for support. Not financial support, but just plain support.
Yes, and so I haven't done that, and I'm sure that they would be.
Because I would think that Mr. Hammond would have a big concern here to look at the whole situation, thinking about where it could affect him after the next 1, 2, or 3 floods.
Well, that's one of our avenues of potentially getting some additional of that match funding that we're lacking right now for the stream work.
Right.
Don't know what's gonna happen, or if that, they'll even say they won't have anything to do with it because it's far enough away from the road now. But essentially for me right now is just if we could get support from the town of Tioga that looking at this just like you would a normal flood buyout, regardless of what road it's on, it's within the boundaries of town of Tioga. They're residents of town of Tioga, so that's why we're looking at it that way, is we're doing all the work, getting all the funding. If DEC doesn't come through or isn't able to come through to own the property, if we get the grant, we would like the town to accept ownership of the parcel.
So that brings to mind another question. If we were to accept the ownership of the parcel, what about future maintenance? As in 10 years from now, who's responsible for any of that?
So you're more familiar with that than I am as far as like the flood buyout properties?
Well, any of the buyout properties that we now own, I believe we're into the future maintenance.
Okay, so that being said, we, as part of our funding, we would plant a forested buffer from the stream up as close to the road as we could get, which would be shrubs and trees, which would mean that for a certain number of years at least, soil and water would be linked with you on maintenance of that property. And I can't speak for Wendy, but I feel like I could get a somewhat of a guarantee from soil and water that we would partner with the town on maintenance of that, because we'll have a project that we did at the toe of the stream bank.
Right. I mean, our experience with buyout properties now is flood from backup waters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall any flood properties we own are an issue of washout. They're all just flooded property that had structures on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore we don't have the liability of water eroding away the land.
Right.
And here you could have that issue, because whatever you do may in 10 years' time turn out to be a problem again. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess I'd like to know who's responsible for it at that time, if it ever happened. If it was in the ownership of the town, would the town be responsible for that? If DEC owned it, I wouldn't care. That would be their responsibility. But so I guess we'd have to clarify that too.
Okay.
I mean, at least in my mind.
Yeah,
you
no,
guys
I think
You're
I see Adam nodding that it would be the town.
Well, sure. The town owns the property. It's the town's
That's what
responsibility.
I mean, and that's a piece of property that's very vulnerable to a flood issue and an erosion issue.
And it shows it.
So I know you're trying to fix the problem, but if what you do fails 10 years down the road, somebody's still responsible for the washout. So now it's the
two
town
positives for that is with soil and water's involvement on that parcel and the adjoining parcels that we would be working on,
right?
and the town itself. Once we've done work on the stream there, in the case of another declared disaster, we're eligible for FEMA money to repair it. So it financially, that there would be help in that case of a declared disaster. So, and that would be something that Soil and Water would take the lead on because it would go beyond just the town's parcel onto the neighboring parcels. So essentially, we would take the lead and the financial part of that in the case of a declared disaster where there was public assistance funds from FEMA.
I understand all you're saying. I really do. I mean, I've thought about this. We've talked about it many a times. The board's talked about it. I just don't want to put the town in a position where they're responsible for future damages, or whatever. I mean, it'd be very nice to have a fishing access. I would love it up there, not for my own personal use, but I think the people would like it for public access. But again, it's up to this board to make the decision to support you or not. So those are my concerns, other than supporting the project to fix the project. Yeah, I'm in favor of supporting to fix it. I'm just not in favor of who should
Of the town owning the property?
who should take all the liability here. I
Right.
mean, if for future use and even to get it done. I mean, but that's up to the board. I mean,
The concern I have is if the town ends up with this property and everything, what kind of precedent we setting for other flooded areas later on creeks. I mean, we've had yards run out, wash out, and they've always wanting the town to do something and we're not able to and stuff. And are we saying that we can come in and get Soil and Water to fix it?
I understand that too, because we've talked about that for a long time. I mean, off and on, and we had those problems all the way up Pipe Creek. You know that, Mike.
Yeah.
You walked that creek, probably the whole length of it at one point or another.
Not yet, but I plan to.
Well, it's all the way up through there.
Right.
The same thing. I mean, people's private property, even though may or may not be a road involved, but in some places there is. I mean, I can remember back when Walt Lounsbury's from there down the hill, going north on about 2 miles up, and that whole bank was washing out. You must remember that.
Well, even Jeff Barnes had some problems out there, right?
Yeah, I mean, so like Bob says, are we opening a bucket of worms here or what?
I think that's a absolutely legitimate concern, and it is the concern. Like, that and I know from Soil and Water's perspective is why do you work on that property and not mine? Why did you?
Right.
So I totally agree that being a concern. I think in this case, there's always going to be some people that say it's not fair, but just like it's a case by case basis where, again, in this case, it's defensible to the town because you didn't put any town money into it. You're just facilitating Soil and Water's project essentially. So that's one sort of line of reasoning to explain to people why the town isn't doing something unfairly. And in this case, I think that's, one of the biggest defenses. And then in addition, at this point, it would just be, if DEC doesn't come through to own it, then it would just be the town owning it. And that is just like the town owning a parcel from a flood buyout. So it's a different sort of scenario.
Except if somebody's house, washes, the creek washes and gets close to their house and they say, well, town ought to buy it and fix it like you did other property,
No, I agree.
It's a terrible situation. I mean, that's a terrible workshop.
Yeah,
and it's just gonna get worse once it gets that far.
the thing that I think about is, again, let's go back and revisit the issue with all these other buyout properties that we own. I don't think there is a one of them that has the liability issue that we're talking about with these two properties up there.
Right.
So with that being said, it scares me that because I know we had an awful time getting FEMA to give us a variance with this Halsey Valley Road over here because they don't allow variances. When you're done with it, it has to be green forever. So you'd have to have a variance from them, I'm sure. In my mind, because they don't allow variances.
For what?
Adam may,
What do you mean?
to do anything but green.
Well, fishing access fits within, I mean, that's
Well,
a
yeah,
park,
that would,
so that's
that would
an
be fine.
open space park.
I'm
fits
sure
within
that would
there.
be fine, but you don't know that because under, you can check it out if you want to, but I'm guarantee you that under FEMA law, you can't just put a fishing access in there without their approval. You see
Yeah,
what
they
I'm
don't want fill
saying?
or any road things.
What's that, Bob?
They don't want any fill put in or that.
No, so there's restrictions with what you can do with that property once you own it.
Mhm.
But
It took us a year and a half to get the approval for this, to elevate this, the end of this road.
Right, well, that's different because you were filling a floodplain. So that's,
No, that was even after approvals from Indian Army Corps and DEC and everything. Because they don't give variances.
so I don't know the answer to this question right now. I'm fairly certain that it is within, from what I've read, the uses that FEMA allows. And I will look into that for sure. But let me ask you guys a question for the property that was a buyout where you have the pavilion now. Was that, did you need a variance for that?
Yep,
yes,
Okay.
we did. Bob Klausner got that variance, and that also had to be available for water to flow through.
Okay,
Okay, you couldn't put anything with walls on that went to the ground or anything like that.
okay. Yeah, I'll get the answer to that question.
Yeah,
but you're not getting money from FEMA to do this, are you?
Through the hazard mitigation grant program, if we get that to buy out the one property, yeah. Yeah.
but all that is the buyout. Then you have to go to another grant source to do the project.
Right, we have that.
Okay.
Right. We have 150,000 of grant funding from Water Quality Improvement Project. We do have to find the other 25% cost share for that, but that essentially, we're saying like soil and water's on the hook for that part of it.
Okay, well, I've said my piece.
It's $150,000 to fix it.
Is there ability to do like a hold harmless clause against the town for future? No? Okay.
No. That would be very, you just can't waive that
Yeah.
kind of liability.
Could there be something with soil and water?
Like an MOU?
As far as, maintenance and repair of the stream bank?
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, with FEMA, if there was a declared disaster, we would be the ones being the applicant for repairs if the stream bank work was damaged,
Mm-hmm.
because we can go across the property boundaries to the private properties as well.
That's the liability that's our concern is continued erosion, right?
Well, that's one of my concerns, certainly it is.
And then the other concern.
I mean, I think whatever they do would be certainly intended to stop the erosion,
Yeah.
Oh, right.
but who knows what the next 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 floods are gonna do.
Well, so that I can
To what
address
extent? I
a
mean-
little bit of that as far as our design procedure and plan. So like most of the stream bank projects that we design are designed at a 20-year lifespan, which is essentially like a financial number, but they are intended to last much, much longer than that. So, and then in addition, because we know of the severity of that location, we've already kind of planned when we get into the design phase of, finding that 100-year and 500-year flood level and hardening and protecting up to and beyond that to prevent the overtopping and, like severe damages in that respect. So it's not like an answer to your question, but it's just leaning towards like helping you see that we're very serious about that also.
Well, it's a huge project.
Yeah.
That's for Wendy to argue.
Well, you guys, Mike's looking for support from the board, so you guys will have to decide what you want to do, I mean, to pursue it.
I think with an MOU from Soil and Water for maintenance and, damage repair, I think our liabilities are low. And as far as people complaining why we did that one and not another, that's for Wendy Walsh to answer, not us. It's not our project.
Right, it was a soil and water project.
We point our fingers at them and say, go talk to them. We didn't do it. Yeah, that's where I'm at this. So if we could get a good MOU from Soil and Water that Adam likes, I'm okay with that. I prefer DEC on it.
Yeah.
That would be my first choice.
I'm sure Wendy would prefer that too. I'm not sure if, I think Wendy feels the same way you do, so I have to talk to her about it. And
Because yeah, I think a public fishing access in town of Tioga on Glen Mary Road would be a wonderful thing.
that would be the ideal.
Oh yeah, it's great trout stream. Yeah, it's actually DEC stocks it.
Well, that's the only trout that are in there.
Yeah, well,
Actually, as a matter of fact, so a project we did just upstream of below Park Settlement Road, between Park Settlement Road and Owego, it was a eroded bank, and they did an electrofish survey. Before we did the work, there were like 2 brown trout, the stock trout. After we did the work, we did root balls called the toewood method, root balls that overhang the water and it creates structure and pools and vegetation. There were hundreds of small brook trout in that reach afterwards. So there are brook trout. It just depends on what time of year, what the year looks like. Mostly they're up in the higher reaches, but that year it was like a drought, so they were down where the cold water was. So, and that is a very popular fishing spot because it's where Catatonka and Owego Creek meet. So just upstream of this eroded bank, there's a really deep scour hole. So there's a really good place for the fish to hide. So as far as fishing access, that would be the ideal. And then access for like hand carry boats, canoes and kayaks to get down there and then float down to the park and we go. So that's the ideal scenario is DEC taking on.
Either change it, you gotta change the speed of that wire because the speed of that wire coming out there is too fast.
You already said.
Talk about the
Is
speed of
there
the
any
water.
way you can change the speed of the water? Because it comes down through there pretty fast when it's flooding. The only way you can do that is like meander in the stream type thing, ain't it, or something like that?
Right, yeah, we won't change
or
the
some
overall
break.
speed. We'll change the speed of the water at the eroded bank
Yeah.
through the structures we install, but we won't change the overall stream velocity.
Is there any way you can install any breakers or anything to break the?
It still is
A
only
little
going to act on like that area that it's in.
Yeah.
It won't change anything downstream.
Yeah. Well, it's up to the board.
Maybe,
Whatever they want to pursue and
Yeah.
do, I would
I
request.
got just one question, Mike. In your write-up here, you said that the last you spoke with Mr. Rumick was in late January, early February, until he recently called again. What was his reason for calling you back?
He was angry that the bank was eroding.
Oh, okay.
He obviously missed that when he bought the place.
And I guess he perceived, and understandably so, he perceived that like I had explained to him like that we had some money to do something, and he said, "Why aren't you doing it if you have the money?" And that, that's why I went way back with you guys and explained the whole scenario and that the money we have doesn't really go anywhere until we've got some good access down there and have some more room. So,
But he wasn't, he doesn't necessarily want to sell the property, but he's also not interested in any monetary contribution to the project to
well,
help
he didn't
facilitate.
specifically say he wouldn't put any money in. I don't remember the exact conversation I had with him. He said he would be supportive. He said something about putting some fill over the bank. I don't know if I even got into asking him if he would contribute money or not. So I can't say for sure. And Mr. Wells has said he is unable to contribute financially because of his financial situation.
Well, again, the only way I would support it is to have the fishing access in writing in the initial agreement.
Have an agreement with Soil and Water about maintenance of the bank.
Right.
Right.
Upon acceptance of the grant,
Okay, yeah.
FEMA.
So it sounds like I have some homework to do, to talk to Wendy about that.
But the board, they want to give a motion to support it, or not support it, let you move ahead, whatever.
I mean, like I said, I'd be in support with an MOU from Soil and Water for ongoing maintenance, and the DEC as the first choice, and Town of Tioga second. Yeah, I'd support that. I'd make a
With
motion
the
for that.
request for a fishing access.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I mean, fishing access, you guys would support it all day. if it
Oh,
was
right.
DEC
Yeah,
taking
right.
ownership.
DEC takes ownership, that's easy.
So I mean, maybe that's something I could get an official, if DEC takes ownership, if we get this grant, town Tioga supports as a kind of a first step, that would be helpful. I think.
Yeah, and that's the reason that I keep harping on the fishing access, because I think we need to see it in writing.
Yeah,
I mean, we can talk about it all day, but if it ain't in writing because I know FEMA, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong here, but when FEMA issues grants, they don't issue them, right? I mean, variances.
Yeah, they don't like to do it.
No, I know. They told us that grant, the variance they give us on the Halsey Valley Road was the first time they'd ever done anything like that in all the years of FEMA.
You just can't.
Yeah, right.
in charge.
So anyway, okay, Drew made the motion. Tiffany's got that worded the way Drew wants it, I guess.
MOU, a motion to approve an MOU from Soil and Water for ongoing maintenance and repair, with DEC as the first choice of ownership, with the town as second, and also with a fishing access.
Okay.
Approval contingent upon.
Approval.
Okay.
but it's also contingent on soil and water.
Getting the grant.
To that.
Yeah.
So let me ask this,
Contingent upon approval of the grant to Soil and Water.
what about a partnership for the maintenance of that and the liability? Between the town
What
and soil
exactly
and water.
are you, in regard to maintenance, are you talking about? I mean, if that house comes down and you fix the bottom of the bank, what maintenance is gonna be necessary to keep the property as the rules, regulations?
Well, really, we're talking about if there's a flood event that causes the toe of the bank to wash out again. Right, that's the concern of the future maintenance and liability, so that's what I'm saying, that's the first thing Wendy's gonna ask is, well, first she's gonna say, no way, I don't wanna do that, I think. And the same reason why you guys are saying, no way, I don't wanna do that. But then the second thing possibly is, is there a possibility of a joint maintenance or liability that?
Well, I don't know.
Soil and water.
I don't support that, but I guess I'd want Adam's opinion on that. I don't know.
Probably just need some more facts, some more. Just not enough data.
I guess
Uh,
by joint maintenance, I guess I wouldn't be opposed to furnishing trucks and labor to haul gravel or whatever, but,
Well, that's what Bob just said. Some like in kind, services.
Homeowners owns, he wants everything to be with shared services.
Well, but I don't know if that would be a shared service, would it? Or I don't think that would really qualify. But I don't know. There's lots of details that would have to be worked out. I guess at this point, Mike's just looking for, would you even support the program if he moves forward with it?
can you buy it out without the town's permission? Because I would think
Probably, but I don't
But then-
think that we can own property.
that's what I mean.
No,
So it's
yeah.
gonna be the town that's gonna own it.
if they bought it out, the eventual ownership goes back to town of Tioga because it's off the tax.
Right, whether you want it or not.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know. I understand that unless he can
Get DEC.
get the DEC to own it.
Yeah.
But I don't see that happening either. But
They're
yeah,
interested.
but they do own properties, a
Yeah.
few. I don't know. I just know that all the restrictions DEC puts on them properties because we're required to maintain every one of these properties we own.
Right.
And I know that they don't give out variances. So, then obviously there will be some sort of maintenance on this. been throughout the years. I mean, if it's a fish access, it's gonna have to be plowed.
Well, that,
In
so
the winter
yeah,
time,
that
so
would
people
be,
can get
that
down
would
in
be
there.
DEC.
If they owned it.
Well, that's the thing is that like, as far as the fishing access part of it, I'm only talking about that if DEC does that.
Right.
I'm not asking the town to take the liability of a public fishing access site on their own by owning the property. If DEC doesn't get involved, I'm asking the town just to own the property and it's not a public fishing access site.
See, I think there is a drawback to putting a fishing access there because there's a crossover pipe on Glenmary Drive right here, and there's a little wash gully that goes down to the creek right on the edge of these trees.
Right.
So this is the house that we're talking about. Wells is buying out. What's this Wells' house here? You've got. Look, it looks like he owns way back in here, so that, you know, there's that they have to contend with, free flowing water in wet times. Right
Yeah,
down
that
through
would
the
be
middle of
all, it'd get incorporated into the design.
it. Yeah.
So.
Because there is like a little gully there that it goes
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, that's what he's saying, yeah. What would they do? Bury a pipe all the way down through there?
No,
That
probably
flow?
just rock line it with a small stone.
Yeah.
And if there were a fishing access, that would be separate from the path.
Yeah,
down.
you couldn't carry a pipe all the way down through there because I'm pretty sure in 2011, the water was over the road right there.
Well,
There was that
I
much
know.
water coming off the hill.
Right. Yeah,
I
that
don't
would just
think
be
they could either,
incorporated,
but
incorporated as a, there's already that gully, so the access to get down would be separated from
Yeah.
that.
okay, well, what do you wanna do, guys? His motion still stands. Wanna vote on that?
I'll second his motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to support it in the capacity that Drew stated his motion to. All those in favor say aye.
Alright,
Opposed? Okay. Tiffany will have that typed up in a few days. If you want to give her a call or stop by,
Okay.
you
Thank
can
you.
have a copy of that.
What were my
Okay,
other questions I needed to answer?
what's that?
What were my other questions I needed to answer?
Well,
The MOU thing, and there were one or two other questions that I didn't get to write down.
yeah, what'd they do with it? I buried it already. Now you gotta make me dig it out.
Sorry.
Place is looking
My
nice, by the way.
questions were the ownership of the property. I'd just soon not own it, but if we don't have to.
Oh,
What are the other?
The FEMA.
Variance.
You got FEMA variances.
Very important.
Yeah, because then the DEC might not be interested if the feds won't let them do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you got the variances to issue or to deal with, and the variances would be anything you want to do with that property other than green, I believe, because that's all they allow without
Right.
variance.
And that's my assumption is that a fishing access counts as green use. But
Yeah,
That's, like you
and
said, find that out for sure. Yes.
they're real touchy about road improvements too.
yeah, but I'm thinking of which road are you talking about? The Glenmary Drive road or the access road down in there?
Yeah, the fishing access there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that.
well, I think
Get a variance on that.
I would think he'd have to get a variance on that, the very first thing, or at least request for one.
Right. Well, that would be a temporary access and then it would be developed into a footpath from the top where the road is. So yeah, yes.
Yeah.
You have to look up the FEMA green part.
Yeah,
It explains it all there.
What was that?
FEMA and green, he says, because that's what they require of us. Everything that we own that's FEMA property or was bought by FEMA and paid for by FEMA, we have to make it has to be green.
Okay.
So even any construction of any kind of
Can't do anything.
wall or, retaining wall or any, you wanna drive pylons or whatever you wanna do, I believe you have to get a variance from them to do it,
Okay.
so. Yeah, you have to check all that out. Okay. Anything else?
That's it. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, we'll move on. You're welcome to stay, or
Do you mind if I stay?
I don't care. No, absolutely not.
It's gonna be a riveting conversation.
Website quote from Brandon Clark. Tiffany done a little more research, and she's got the paper on it. I think you all have a copy of it. If you want any of this information, Mike, there should be some stuff right over there that you want to follow along on it. This is, I can build the entire site out myself for $6.25, provide hosting, domain, maintenance, $29.99 per month. However, I would recommend the town have full control over its own hosting and domain for as low as $13.95 a month. If you pay for at least 1 year with domain included free for the first year, I can show you how to edit, change, add to what I build so that if you need a quick change or post something, you will be able to with ease. To do it with ease, let me know what you think. And then at the bottom, throw it in there $13.95 a month instead of $3.95 due to better security and daily filing backup. Platform is Bluehost. Hosting company is Bluehost. You know anything about that, Drew?
Yep.
Brandon stated it would take him around 3 weeks to build the site. Anything you want to comment about that, Drew? You're more familiar with that than any of us, probably.
No, I just made them push it from the $395 maintenance plan to the more expensive professional one.
Okay.
Because it is a WordPress site. They are hacked, and they're hacked frequently. I mean, this is a DIY site. This is, what in my industry we call a do-it-yourself website.
Right.
For what we're doing with it, with some static informations and mainly a link to our virtual court, it will suffice. It will suffice, and by having the $13.95 a month backup plan, they take a daily backup, and they have a guaranteed. It's like a 12-hour restore time or something like that. So even if our website did get hacked, we call them, they take it down, and it's back up to the way it was before it was hacked within 12 hours.
So is it a worthwhile?
Yeah, this is this is cheap.
So they can't hold it hostage.
No. We wouldn't have any data there that anybody could hold hostage from us. But go ahead, take
I'm
it.
not sure what data they
There you go.
would be worth anything.
No,
Well,
the
any
only thing
data
that
we have other than our financial is public information anyway. So.
Yeah.
But that's
I mean, other than getting into our financial status and somebody ripping us off.
But it wouldn't be more. It'd be keeping us from getting to our history record. So it would take some effort to build things back.
Yeah. Adam, do you have an opinion on it?
I do not.
Okay. What's the board want to do
I'll buy a motion that we check with the county first.
with
Well,
the
we did
county?
do the county quote.
You say
Oh, I
the provider that does the.
It was a
It was
lot.
like $5,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, well, you told us that a month or so ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say where is his price? Yeah, 4,500.
If we were to do this,
Yeah.
would it be compatible to the county IT if we ever get to that point on this side of the river?
So as far as doing the shared services, the county doesn't do your websites anyways. So
But,
Yes,
but
it would
it
be
would
fine.
be acceptable
it
to
would be
their
acceptable.
system.
Yep, it
Okay.
would be acceptable.
Well, my opinion, I think need to try it for
And it's
the price of it.
yeah, I was gonna say it's an entry website, and if we decide we want to expand and do something more sophisticated later, this doesn't stop us from doing that.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with this project.
Yeah, I'd second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to proceed with this website author from Brandon Clark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alright,
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Stray Haven contract. Tiffany made a phone call, clarified all that, and it's, well, you explained it, Tiffany, it's $150 a dog, right?
Yes, there is no annual fee this year in 2020 going forward, so we're only billed quarterly at $150 a dog, but only if they're brought to the facility.
Okay.
And so far, we haven't taken a dog to Stray Haven in quite some time. And Kyle told me that that's a last resort for him
Mhm.
to take a dog to Stray Haven. So, other than that, we'll sign it and send it back. We already did, but because we have to have it by law
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So, as long as we understand the contract, we're good with that.
Excellent.
You want a motion on that?
Yeah, we need a motion on that, or?
Well,
Probably
to accept Stray Haven as our
I'll make a
contract,
motion at least.
yeah, probably
Contract
should
with
be.
Stay Haven for the year 2021.
Motion made and seconded to accept Stray Haven as the contract. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Local legislator letter. I guess we can put that on, or unless you guys want to do something different about it.
I don't think we should send it.
Okay. We can scratch that. Park keeper. Look, I gotta. Somehow we gotta figure out what we're gonna do with park maintenance over there for the summer. I mean, even if we have a garbage in, you bring it in, you take it out. We've still got to have somebody to take care of the bathrooms because they will get dirty, especially with Girl Scouts and everybody else using them. I'd like to leave them open. Bob and I've talked about it before. People use that walking trail all the time now. And I'd like to leave the bathrooms on the lawn, but it's the issues with the kids. And
With the kids
maybe
that-
with the surveillance system there now, maybe we won't have them issues because they've
Well,
been
with
pretty
kids are
good.
getting
I guess
older,
with the
so-
surveillance system that we got there, would it be prudent to try it and see what happens?
Yes,
Well, that's what I want to do. But
I think definitely.
we still have to make sure, like if the park's rented on a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday, that they've got enough paper products, supplies, and somebody has to take care of that. As far as,
I talked to Armin Roman about that the other day, and if it wasn't for him, he can't legally because he's on, assistance from.
Right.
That he can't legally get money,
right,
but he felt if we advertised it, we should be able to get somebody without any trouble.
well, I mentioned that to Tiffany today, that we may have to advertise, but, and she
Well, I
made a
guess that's-
suggestion too, but
I guess that's the next step because we haven't come up with anybody in the meantime.
so if we do that, we need to detail what we're advertising. I don't know. Obviously, nobody knows how full that schedule will be this summer because of COVID, because of all the issues involved that go along with the park. But because last year everything was pretty well canceled out.
Yeah.
Does that mean this year that? Well, I say it was canceled out. There was still quite a few. Does that mean this year it'll be swamped every weekend? I can't tell you. I don't know.
6 reservations so far this year. Two of the 6 are carried over from last year.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we need to drop a job description of what's gonna be involved, but we also need to just decide what we're gonna pay them before we get too far.
Yeah, I think last year we paid, what was it, $25 a full?
$25 for the day of every day you open and close.
So, and he went down twice, a minimum every day. He'd go down in the morning, make sure everything was okay and unlock the bathrooms and the kitchen or whatever. And then he'd go down at night and make sure everything was okay and close it back up. And he sometimes would run down during the day and blow the concrete off. By the way, you bought a new blower for that, right? So, but he also I remember him and myself both dumpster diving more than once
But if we put that in
because of
there,
garbage. But if we don't have the garbage issue to contend with, but you know, there will be some. Even,
Well, if we don't
What?
put dumpsters down there,
well, I know, but you know that some people are still gonna leave some garbage there.
well, that's what our surveillance camera.
well,
But-
are we gonna put a charge on there for if they don't clean up?
Well, yeah, it's just like in Marvin Park, this is a carry in, carry out park.
Right.
We need to put a sign like that at every entrance. Get signs made up, put it at every entrance anybody can possibly come in there.
And then we'd have a record of who's renting it and stuff, so.
Russ,
we
could you
could
get
put- we
two or
could
three
put a
signs
fee
made up?
on if it wasn't
that?
taken care of, it would cost them.
Just says Ransom Park is a carry in, carry out park.
Take your own trash with you.
Get me
Just
at
like
least
carry in,
three.
carry out with, I
And
think they
maybe,
have like a garbage can.
maybe
Yeah,
we could add to that sign that, the camera is monitored by surveillance cameras.
well, I think all you'd have to do is video surveillance or
And use-
video surveillance.
Well, it wouldn't hurt to put those signs up,
No,
stating that.
no. We debated about that at first a year ago when we done that, whether to advertise that it was under surveillance or not. Fortunately, we have not had a lot of trouble since they went up, but,
And if they know that,
You
that's
you don't
why,
know
if they
what's
know
gonna
we got
happen
that.
if you get a lot of rentals, that could change. So,
I think we need 4 of them signs, at least 3. We need one over on,
one each side of the barn and one over on Locust Lane.
yeah. And probably one by the pavilion on Locust Lane.
Yeah,
Yes,
And you'd need one by the driveway that goes into the park for the bathrooms on Locust Lane. And then 2 by the barn, so I think I'd need 4. Okay? Uh,
I guess I would think.
I think we ought to advertise it. I think it'd be a perfect something for somebody that's retired, that lives close by, that could go over once or twice on weekends and check it out and make sure.
Well, and if we are gonna be a carry in, carry out park and there's no garbage to monitor or anything, all you've got is to maintain the bathrooms and,
The kitchen,
the kitchen.
make sure whoever left it yesterday is okay for the people
and the
tomorrow.
tables are like clean.
I mean, that's still worth $25 a day or, an event.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't want it any less than that. Get somebody to do it. And,
Okay, we'll write up some kind of a,
And they,
The dumpster that's down there for the ballpark,
that belongs to Taylor and is supplied specifically for the youth girl
and,
softball.
and the youth keep it locked. It is.
It's not locked right now, but
It is.
they do.
Oh,
In fact, one of the lids is right open.
Oh.
It was yesterday when I was there.
Really?
Yeah, one of the lids is right open, right over toward the
from
driveway.
Probably from that wind we had the other day.
Probably, I don't know.
Could be.
I didn't stop and look in it. It could be full of garbage, but, Taylor has never billed us for that. It's specifically for the girls. That was kind of their contribution to they've never billed us to pick it up or dump it. I mean, so, I can talk to Jared about that but I don't know who took the lock off from it, whether Dan did or Armin, because I think they both had a key to it.
Well, Armin's the one that told me that Dan keeps it locked,
Well,
so,
we better check it then.
yeah.
so I think, it should be locked except for when they're there.
Yeah.
So I
right,
hear a
that's what they
siren blowing.
You do too.
Yeah? I do. But anyway, it must be over on Alta Valley Road. Anyway, Okay, we'll write something up and get it in the paper for that. New business. We need to think about this. We've had a number of issues this winter with heat, electric generators, you name it. Yesterday, the furnace didn't work again, right? When you come in, it was 40 degrees, 42 degrees in here.
Being out of fuel didn't help.
Well, it wasn't out of fuel.
Oh,
It was, you said there was like 55 gallons of fuel left in the tank, but the probe, and I remember that now, the probe only went down about that far because I think it was Armin talked about that before, nothing ever got done about it. So they put a new line in, right? And they got it down in so it draws down lower now, and then they filled it today, I assume.
No, they filled it yesterday too.
Oh, they did fill it yesterday. Well, anyway, so it'll draw down further now anyway. But we had an electrical issue with it 3 weeks ago. And somehow it lost power for some reason, and myself and the guy from Scott Smith was here till, I don't know, 6:30 that night trying to get it fixed. And we finally figured out that the wire runs down through behind that water cooler and into a junction box, and somehow in the wall, for whatever reason. So anyway, we bypassed that and run another wire down through and got power back to the furnace, and that part of it's worked fine ever since. But that was all done back in 91 when this building was built. So how they wired it, I have no idea. But anyway, then we had problems with the generator. And the generator kept kicking that breaker number 27 off. Still hearing more of them. And then finally figured out that the problem was there was only one 20 amp circuit run out there to the generator initially, and it required two 20 amp circuits, a minimum of two. And Greg Williams, who's the person responsible for the generator, the generator came from, came once, put a new battery on it, because that outlet services two functions. One is the battery charger to maintain it, and the other one is the heater on the engine. So apparently if the charger was on and the heater kicked on, it would kick the breaker. It would not, it just wouldn't.
because it didn't have the two lines. Like
Didn't have enough juice. So he said, I can fix it for you, but should have been done to begin with. So anyway, I said, let me talk to Dan, who's the Mills electrician. I did give a call to Aaron Ferguson, never got a response back from him. But I did talk to Dan from Mills Electric, and he says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I think it should be the way it was intended. He said, you want me to just come and fix it? And I said, that would be nice. So he did do that, last week? Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere along in there. And he talked to Greg Williams, and that's all taken care of now. There's another circuit run out there. He had to piggyback another circuit to do that. But it now has two circuits out there, one. But we had to put two batteries in it in about a month and a half or so. Because it drained the batteries right down to nothing. Just froze them up. The first one it froze up. The second one drained it down so low that it won't take a charge. So anyway, it has another new battery on it, and the problem is supposedly solved. So,
well, it makes sense. Reading what it was doing, we corrected it.
So anyway, what my point was upon doing all that and getting involved with all that, I finally decided that we're losing a lot of heat through this ceiling. These tile are only an inch thick, and that's the only insulation up there, period. There is no other insulation up there.
Really?
Nothing, nowhere.
It was never built with any insulation in it?
Apparently not.
Wow.
Yeah, sure, how we.
Well, I think the tile are classified as an insulating tile, but they're only an inch thick.
Yeah, well, they need to be.
So we're having a tremendous amount of heat loss through the ceiling. And it's the whole building, not just,
Yeah.
Not just
Part
this
of it.
chamber, yeah.
so, we need to address that issue this summer. It's gonna take, if you blew in insulation, I'm not sure these tiles are strong enough because they snap just so simple.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a good idea.
No, you blow it in and these tiles come down, you got a mess. So I'm not quite sure what the answer is. We'd have to have somebody look at it to give us an estimate, but I think that it would pay for itself because I think we're losing a whole lot of heat. But, so that's something we need to think about.
Does Scott Smith do an annual cleaning on the furnace?
They did last week.
Yeah,
What,
correct.
yeah, what is the efficiency rated at?
78%.
78?
So it's, again, it's things to think about.
I know
Okay.
Denise remarked, because I was
Hey,
there today.
Yeah.
There's a guy up on Emma Street in Binghamton, that Foment they call it, and he'll come in and give me an estimate on insulate and everything.
Well, we're gonna have to look into it, I believe. We're gonna have to do something about it before next year.
Yeah.
Even through the summer, you know, we're gonna lose a lot, we lose a lot of coolant. Yeah, NYSERDA does. Let me talk to Doug about that.
The woman from NYSERDA, Rosie Ray,
Okay.
she would know where to go. With the saving electric on lights and all that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, or, I guess we've dealt with her before, huh?
Yeah, when